Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanziba Naurin. In today's bulletin, we will get you detailed news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Minor arrested after 5 are shot to death, including police officer in North Carolina. Investigators say Connecticut officers were shot and killed in ambush 911 call. January 6 panel subpoenas Trump shows startling new video. US extends COVID-19 public health emergency declaration. Cause of death determined for missing teen found in reservoir. Five people injured after SUV T-boned ambulance on Staten Island. Florida cops arrest 7 alleged looters in the wake of Hurricane Ian. Death toll rises as Russia bombards Ukraine cities for a fourth day. Putin under pressure as poor mobilization sees troops die, surrender ISW. Moscow calls for evacuations of occupied Kherson region, fearing new fighting. Russia warns that Ukraine's NATO membership would lead to World War III. UK PM Truss fires Kwasi Kwarteng, says BBC. I killed them on purpose. NICU nurse accused of murdering 7 infants left behind disturbing notes. French minister urged Lebanon to swiftly elect new president. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck attend their first public event as a married couple. Muffed punt, Robinson TD left Commanders over Bears 12-7. And Lucius Jackson, former 76ers star and Olympic gold medalist, has died. Now news in detail. A 15-year-old boy fatally shot 2 people in the streets of a neighborhood in North Carolina's capital city, then fled toward a walking trail where he opened fire, killing 3 more people and wounding 2 others, police said Friday. Raleigh Police Chief Estella Patterson said the teenage suspect was hospitalized in critical condition following the shootings late Thursday afternoon. Those killed were a racially diverse group and ranged in age from 16 to their late 50s, Patterson said during a news conference Friday. Among the dead was an off-duty Raleigh police officer, Gabriel Torres, who was on his way to work when the shooting began. A second police officer was wounded and released from the hospital, while a 59-year-old woman remained hospitalized in critical condition. The suspect, who was not immediately identified by police, eluded officers for hours before he was cornered in a home and arrested, police said. Officials have not said how he was injured. The shootings set off a massive police response and manhunt, with police scouring an area of more than 2 miles to find and capture the suspect, Patterson said. She said authorities have not yet determined any motive. Governor Roy Cooper called the shooting an infuriating and tragic act of gun violence. 3 Bristol, Connecticut police officers were shot Wednesday night in what police believe was an ambush following a phony 911 call for help. According to police sources, the incident may have started earlier in the evening when Bristol PD responded to a disorderly patron at a bar and issued a summons. He returned to his home, armed himself with an AR-15 style rifle and made a fake 911 for a disturbance at his residence, the sources said. A neighbor said the brothers could be heard arguing just before officers arrived. I turned around to deal with the mailbox, and when I took the key in, I heard the shots, one neighbor said. As Bristol PD arrived, the suspect immediately fired upon them, fatally injuring two and critically injuring a third. The suspect, identified as Nicholas Brucher, was shot and killed during Wednesday's gunfire exchange. His brother was also shot and taken to the hospital. The House January 6 committee voted unanimously to subpoena former President Donald Trump, demanding his personal testimony as it unveiled startling new video and described his multi-part plan to overturn his 2020 election loss, which led to his supporters' fierce assault on the U.S. Capitol. With alarming messages from the U.S. Secret Service warning of violence and vivid new video of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other congressional leaders pleading for help, the panel on Thursday showed the raw desperation at the Capitol. Using language frequently seen in criminal indictments, the panel said Trump had acted in a premeditated way before January 6, 2021. Despite countless aides and officials telling him he had lost, Trump is almost certain to fight the subpoena and decline to testify. On his social media outlet, he blasted members for not asking him earlier, though he didn't say he would have complied, and called the panel a total bust. In one of its most riveting exhibits, the panel showed previously unseen footage of congressional leaders phoning for help during the assault as Trump refused to call off the mob. Pelosi can be seen on a call with the governor of neighboring Virginia, explaining as she shelters with Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer and others that the governor of Maryland has also been contacted. Later, the video shows Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell and other GOP leaders as the group asks the Defense Department for help. They are breaking the law in many different ways, Pelosi says at one point, and quite frankly, much of it at the instigation of the President of the United States. The footage also portrays Vice President Mike Pence, not Trump, stepping in to help calm the violence, telling Pelosi and the others he has spoken with Capitol Police as Congress plans to resume its session that night to certify Biden's election. The video was from Pelosi's daughter Alexandra, a documentary filmmaker. The United States on Thursday extended the COVID-19 pandemic's status as a public health emergency for another 90 days, thereby preserving measures like high payments to hospitals and expanded Medicaid. The extension was announced by U.S. Health Secretary Xavier Becerra on Thursday. Last month, President Joe Biden said in an interview that the pandemic is over, which prompted criticism from health experts. The toll of the COVID-19 pandemic has diminished significantly since early in Biden's term, when more than 3,000 Americans per day were dying, as enhanced care, medications, and vaccinations have become more widely available. But hundreds of people a day continue to die from the coronavirus in the United States, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Biden has asked Congress for $22.4 billion more in funding to prepare for a potential case surge. Former President Donald Trump had declared a national emergency in 2020 to free up $50 billion in federal aid. Kylie Rodney, a California teenager who was missing for 2 weeks before her body was found in a car submerged in a reservoir, died due to drowning, and there is no evidence of foul play. Autopsy results released on Thursday determined. The 16-year-old's death has been ruled accidental by the coroner's division of the Nevada County Sheriff's Office, authorities said. This ruling is based on the pathologist's finding that her death was the result of drowning and that there was no other information to suggest she was the victim of foul play, the sheriff's office said in a statement. The sheriff's office is continuing to work with Rodney's family by evaluating any additional information related to this investigation, it added. Rodney was last seen on August 6 around 12:30 am. Local time near the Prosser family campground in the small town of Truckee, California, some 20 miles north of Lake Tahoe. She was at a party with upward of 300 people when she vanished along with her vehicle, a silver 2013 Honda CR-V. Her cell phone had also been out of service since she went missing. A massive search effort ensued for 2 weeks before a body was found in a vehicle pulled from the Prosser Reservoir on August 21, authorities said. The car matched the description of her SUV and the body was confirmed to be that of Rodney 2 days later following an autopsy. An ambulance transporting a patient was overturned after an SUV crashed into it on Staten Island. The ambulance had just picked up a pedestrian who had been struck by a car and was transporting her to Richmond University Medical Center. That's when an SUV T-boned the ambulance in the intersection of Jewett Avenue and Main Avenue, sending it crashing onto its side. 5 people, including the emergency workers, driver, and initial patient, were all transported to the hospital. Their injuries are believed to be non-life-threatening, according to police. Jewett Avenue is closed between College Avenue and the Boulevard as police continue to investigate the scene. A Florida sheriff announced he has arrested 7 looters that are accused of stealing items, including fire extinguishers, from wrecked properties in the aftermath of devastating Hurricane Ian. The men who are seen on video being led away in handcuffs were called the lowest form of scum for preying on others directly impacted by Hurricane Ian by Lee County Sheriff Carmino Marceno. There will absolutely be law and order in Lee County, and those who think they will commit crime are gravely mistaken, he added. Now it's time for global updates. Russia hit Ukrainian cities from the air for the 4th day in a row on Thursday, and as new missiles fell and bodies from earlier barrages were pulled from the rubble, the death count rose to more than 3 dozen, officials said. The new toll emerged as Western allies made to figure out how to strengthen Ukraine's hand on the battlefield without enlarging the deadliest, most destructive conflict to be fought in Europe since World War II. Prodded by the expanded attacks ordered by Russia's President Vladimir Putin, Western nations were working to hasten deliveries of sophisticated air defense systems to Ukraine, and European Union officials said they planned to begin training Ukrainian soldiers on EU soil. At the moment when Putin is increasing escalation, we have in turn to continue to support Ukraine as much as needed and for how long is needed, the European Union's top diplomat Josep Borrell Fontelles said at a meeting of NATO defense ministers in Brussels. In the southern city of Mykolaiv, Russian missiles left 7 people buried under the rubble of an apartment block, the authorities said. An 11-year-old boy was rescued after spending 6 hours buried in a crumbled 5-story building, said the head of the regional military administration. Officials later said that the same debris had yielded the remains on an 80-year-old woman and a 31-year-old man. On Thursday, as NATO defense ministers met in Brussels, the beginnings of a new air defense network for Europe came into focus, with many pointing to the impetus of Russia's missile and rocket attacks in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin faces rising tensions as his army's ineffectiveness results in deaths and surrenders to Ukraine forces, according to reports. The Institute for the Study of War released a report on Thursday detailing the latest information on the conflict in Ukraine. The report noted that following Putin's announcement that Russia would be mounting a partial mobilization, against Ukraine to escalate the war 3 weeks ago. There have been significant issues in the army. Russian media reported that 5 mobilized men from Chelyabinsk in west-central Russia have already died in combat in Ukraine, just 3 weeks after President Vladimir Putin's declaration of partial mobilization on September 21, the ISW said. The report led many pro-war meal bloggers to claim that the number of dead and wounded among mobilized servicemen is likely higher than these due to the lack of promised training, equipment, unit cohesion, and commanders, as well as repeated instances of wrongful mobilization. Moscow-appointed leader of the occupied Kherson region has asked Russia for help evacuating the area in a sign its southern Ukrainian location may become the new battleground. Vladimir Soldo, who served as Kherson mayor from 2002 to 2012, was installed in April by the Russian forces as head of the wider region. He called on the Kremlin's assistance in moving civilians. "I want to ask you for help in organizing such work," said Soldo, who is charged with treason in Ukraine, according to The Guardian. "We residents of the Kherson region certainly know that Russia does not abandon its own, and Russia always lends a shoulder where it is difficult. Moscow has occupied Kherson since early in the war, and it became one of the 4 regions Russian President Vladimir Putin declared annexed into Russia." Deputy Secretary of the Russian Security Council, Alexander Venediktov, has warned that Ukraine's entry into NATO would lead to World War III and stressed that NATO member states understand the suicidal nature of this step. Kiev is well aware that this step would imply moving to World War III. Apparently, they seek to generate information, noise, and draw attention to themselves. Venediktov said in an interview with the Russian news agency TASS, "Given that many members of the Kiev regime are oblivious to reality, I would not be surprised if any of them expected the country to be admitted to NATO," he said, before adding that Moscow is aware that despite claims of its non-involvement in the events in Ukraine, the actions of Westerners show that they are part of the conflict. Thus, he stressed that Ukraine's entry into NATO would automatically give a new nuance to the West's involvement, since Article 5 would come into application, referring to the clause on collective defense in case of military attack against one of the members of the alliance. Former British Foreign Minister Jeremy Hunt is the country's new finance minister, The Times reported on Friday, after Kwasi Kwarteng was sacked from the role by Prime Minister Liz Truss. British Prime Minister Liz Truss has fired her Finance Minister Kwasi Kwarteng, the BBC reported on Friday, shortly before she is expected to scrap parts of his economic package in a bid to survive the market and political turmoil gripping the country. Downing Street confirmed that Truss, in power for only 37 days, would hold a press conference later on Friday after Kwarteng was forced to rush back to London from IMF meetings in Washington to address the chaos. The BBC said Kwarteng had been sacked. Downing Street declined to comment. Kwarteng had become Britain's shortest-serving chancellor since 1970, and his successor would be the country's 4th finance minister in as many months. Unimaginable horror unfolded in the neonatal unit in a UK medical center over the last few years, all allegedly perpetrated by one nurse. Lucy Letby is a former neonatal nurse who is currently standing trial for the murder of 7 newborns and the attempted murder of 10 more babies. Evidence found in Letby's home contained her confessions to intentionally killing several infants. In 2018, police recovered disturbing handwritten notes composed by Letby admitting her crimes. "I am evil," the notes read. "I killed them on purpose because I am not good enough to care for them. I am a horrible, evil person." Other notes directly contradicted her confession. Letby is currently standing trial at Manchester Crown Court on 22 counts, 7 counts of murder and 15 counts of attempted murder. 32-year-old Lucy Ledby worked as a neonatal nurse at Countess of Chester Hospital in northwestern England. She worked the night shifts in the neonatal unit tending to fragile newborns. Investigators and doctors were stumped as to why this kept happening and considered common denominators surrounding the infants' deaths. The only conclusive one they discovered was all of their deaths aligned with Ledby's shift hours. 7 newborns, 5 boys and 2 girls reportedly died in Ledby's care in 2015 and 2016. She was accused of injecting air, milk and insulin into the infant's bloodstream via IV and breathing tubes. Ledby allegedly attempted to kill one infant 3 times before doing so on her 4th attempt. The victims consisted of mostly infants who were born premature and were undergoing treatment in the neonatal unit. French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna on Friday urged Lebanon to swiftly elect a new president or risk plunging the poverty-stricken country into a deeper political crisis. Colonna's remarks in Beirut came after Lebanon's divided parliament twice failed to elect a successor to Michael Aoun, with no majority candidate in the running. It took 2 years for lawmakers to reach a settlement and vote Aoun into power in 2016. Meanwhile, Lebanon's government has been functioning under a limited caretaker capacity for months as political parties struggle to agree on a new leadership lineup. Electing a president and appointing a new government amid one of the world's worst ever economic spirals is a critical priority, Colonna said. Aoun's 6-year term ends on October 31st. Lebanon cannot handle the danger of a vacuum in its political leadership, Colonna told reporters at Rafik Hariri International Airport after meetings with Lebanon's leaders, including Aoun and caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati. In the current framework, she added, it would be worrying and dangerous to impose a political crisis on the Lebanese people. Bennifer is back in action after tying the knot twice and taking several honeymoons. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck arrived at the Ralph Lauren show in Southern California, rocking all black ensembles. The show celebrated the world of Ralph Lauren and the spring 2023 collections. The 53-year-old singer, actress and businesswoman wore a chic pinstripe dress paired with a classic black fedora and matching clutch. At the same time, her husband attended in a black suit with a matching black tie and button-up. Lopez and the brand have a deeper connection. The global sensation chose Ralph Lauren to design her wedding dresses for her second wedding in Georgia. Lopez walked down the aisle in a turtleneck column dress with a jaw-dropping ruffles skirt. The gown featured flared cape sleeves, an open mesh bag, and a cathedral veil perfect for a movie star. For the party, J.Lo changed into 2 other wedding dresses. This one, with an old Hollywood flair, had a body-hugging silhouette and was adorned with stringed pearl details. The third gown was as spectacular as the other. The look had a modern and sleek design and featured a keyhole cutout on the chest, twisted back straps, and embedded Swarovski crystals. Now a look of today's sports stories. Brian Robinson scored plenty of touchdowns during his stellar career at Alabama. The rookie's first as a pro came at a big moment. Christian Holmes recovered a muffed punt by Velus Jones deep in Chicago territory to set up a 1-yard touchdown by Robinson midway through the 4th quarter, and the Washington Commanders stopped a 4-game losing streak, hanging on to beat the Bears 12-7 on Thursday night. Former 76ers star Lucius Luke Jackson died Wednesday at a hospital in Houston due to heart problems, according to KFDM-TV in Beaumont, Texas. He was 80 years old. Jackson, who played with the 76ers from 1964 to 72, won an NBA championship with the franchise during the 1966-67 season. He played with 2-time champion and 13-time All-Star Wilt Chamberlain. Marva Jackson, Luke's wife, recalled a story to KFDM TV that the Big Dipper once referred to her husband of 57 years as one of the most powerful men he played with during his career. During his 8-year career in the league, Jackson averaged 9.9 points, 8.8 rebounds and 1.6 assists in 522 regular season games. In the postseason, Jackson tallied 9.7 points and 9.1 rebounds through 56 games. Let's have a look on today's weather chart. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest updates. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia available with Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.